Hi guys, this is Vineet, and in this video we will talk about how you can shrink a data or log file within SQL Server. So let's go to notes. Let's go to notes. So in case you want to get the PDF copy of these notes, what I would suggest you is to, in case you need the copy of these notes as PDF files, you can go ahead, just right below this video there is a subscribe button. Click on that subscribe button and click on the bell icon after that and select all notifications to get notifications regarding all my future videos. And once you subscribe to my channel, take the screenshot of the below area below my video, which is indicating the description of the video as well as my channel name along with the subscribe button, and take a screenshot of that section. Example is given below. So send that screenshot to my email address, which is verma@gmail.com, mentioned over here. So once I receive your email, I will send you the PDF copy of the notes on your email address. Let's go back to notes. So these are the notes. Otherwise, if you don't want to send me an email, I would suggest you to please write down these notes while I'm going through them. That would be a better way to learn. So let's talk about shrinking data files or log files. Now, shrinking data files, what does it mean? Basically, shrinking data files recovers the space by moving pages of data. Shrinking basically moves the pages of data from the end of the file to unoccupied space closer to the front of the file. That is what shrinking operation does. And once this movement is done and enough free space is created at the end of the file, data pages at the end of the file gets deallocated and return to the file system to reclaim the disk space. So that is what the whole shrinking operation is. Now there are some key points or certain restrictions. The primary data file cannot be made smaller than the size of the primary file in the model database. So let's see the size of the model database here. So I'm starting up SQL Server. Waiting for it to start. So once SQL Server starts, we will check the size of the primary file of model database. So the size of the primary file of any of the database cannot be made smaller than the size of the primary file of model database. So I'm not recovering this, I'm connecting to the environment. So inside SQL Server, we can expand the system databases section. There's a model database which is a system database. We can check its properties. The properties, there is a file section on the left hand side. So it indicates the initial file size of 8 MB for the primary file. So the file size cannot be, the primary file size for any of the databases cannot be made smaller than 8 MB. If we try to do so, it will not allow us. For example, SampleDB also has a primary data file which is currently set to like 10 MB. We cannot reduce it below 8 MB because the size of the primary data file for model database has 8 MB size. Alright, that is what that point meant. So primary data file cannot be made smaller than the size of the primary file in the model database. Now shrink operation is most effective after an operation that creates a large amount of unused storage space, such as deletion of large tables, or if we are truncating or dropping any table or performing a truncate drop operation. So those kind of operations, delete operations and the truncate drop operations, create a huge amount of space in the database. So that space can be reclaimed by performing a shrink operation afterwards. So it is talking about when do we perform the shrink operation, or when shrink operation is most effective. Some free space is also required by the database for its day-to-day operations. So even if we keep on shrinking the data or log files repeatedly, we will notice that the database size grows again to some extent, and this is an indication that a free space is required for the regular operation as well. Alright, let's move to next point. Shrink operation does not preserve the fragmentation state of indexes in the database. So basically shrink operation causes fragmentation, right? And generally it increases the fragmentation, and this is the reason behind not to repeatedly shrink a database. So shrinking database causes fragmentation, also it's not advisable to continuously or repeatedly shrink the database. And to eliminate the fragmentation, consider rebuilding the indexes on the file after the shrinking operation is done. And also, unless there is a specific requirement, do not turn on the auto shrink database option. Basically this option auto shrinks the database at some intervals. So let's go through one of the demos, which is shrinking a data or log file using SSMS, and we will go through other demo as well, which is shrinking a data or log file using the Transact-SQL statements. So let's use the sample DB as the database and see what demo we have. So first let's use SQL Server Management Studio, and in order to shrink a data or log file, in the Object Explorer, connect to the instance of SQL Server which we are already connected to. Databases section is also expanded, and we need to right click on the database which we want to shrink, and we need to point to tasks, and after tasks we are shrinking files here individually. So we are selecting files option. Now in this box there are some of the items. Let me explain that. So database section indicates the name of the selected database, and there is also another section, database files and file groups. Under that there is a file type, and this is a data file. So basic file type defines the type for the file, and the available choices here are data and log files, and the default selection is data. And even if we select a different file group here, it will change the selection in the other fields accordingly. And now let's talk about the file group section, and we can select a file group from this list. So for this database we only have primary file group. If we have other file groups, that can be selected from this drop down menu. So once we select anything different in this field, other fields will also change eventually, because there are separate files in separate file groups. Next is the file name category. The primary database file name is sampledb.dat, sampledb_dat, and basically through this list we can select a list of available files of the selected file group and the file type. Now there is next section, which is location, which shows the actual physical location of the file. In our case the file name is sampledb.dat.mdf. Next section is currently allocated space. So 10 MB is allocated to this file. For data files it displays the current allocated space. For log files displays the current allocated space computed from the output of dbcc SQL_perf log space function. So for now we have not selected a log file, so let's ignore that. And this is the allocated space. So 10 MB is allocated to this file, and available free space in this file is currently 5.63 MB, which is like 56% is available. And for data file displays the currently available free space computed from the output of dbcc show file stats file id. So I'm talking about how these calculations are done. So I'm talking about the free space computation that is done by using the dbcc show file stats. We provide file id as the parameter to that function that provides us this. So this is the currently available free space available for this file. And for log files, yeah, there's a separate function to calculate the space, which is dbcc SQL log space function, which can be performed, or operation which can be performed. Now this another section for shrink action. So first option is released unused space. So let's discuss about all three options. So what do we mean by that? So released unused space means if we select this option and click OK, this is an operation which causes any unused space in the files to be released to the operating system. So if there any unused space in this file, if we use this operation, it will release any unused space in the files to be released to the operating system and shrink the file to the last allocated extent. Extent is basically a unit of storage in SQL Server, and it reduces the file size without moving any data. No attempt is made to relocate rows to unallocated pages. So what is this operation altogether? It basically releases the space to the release. It causes any unused space in the file, in this file, to be released to the operating system, and basically shrinks this file to the last allocated extent by reducing the file size without moving any data. So data movement is not done under this operation. So any data movement does not happen, like no attempt is made to relocate rows under data pages to any of the unallocated pages. So no data movement is done. Let's talk about next option, which is to reorganize pages before releasing unused space. So before unused space is released to the operating system, this operation, in addition to releasing the unused space, it also reorganizes the pages. So it is equivalent to using the dbcc shrink file specifying the target file size. When this option is selected, the user must specify the target file size in the shrink file to box. So whatever size, like we want to shrink the file size to 8 MB, then yeah, we can from 10 MB to 8 MB we can specify 8 MB over here. So that is to be mentioned under the shrink file to action, and basically it specifies the target file size for the shrink operation. The size cannot be less than the currently allocated space or more than the total extents allocated to the file. Entering a value beyond the minimum or the maximum will revert to the minimum max when the focus is changed or when any of the buttons on the toolbar are clicked. So earlier we were talking about one point, that file size cannot be reduced below whatever the model database has, so which is 8 MB. So let's try to reduce it to 6 MB. Let's see whether that works. It should not work ideally. So let's try this operation. So after executing this operation, we are expecting the file size to be 6 MB, but it should not reduce below 8 MB as per the model database requirement, but it has still reduced it to 6 MB. In fact, but the thing is, here we are using additional file, so let's try to remove this and click OK. So it does not allow, right? So it is saying that that particular data file is not empty, so cannot be removed. It contains certain data. So let's go back. It has shrunk the file. Let's check the size of any other data files for any other databases. So these are quite large. Let's do not interfere with that. Let's focus our attention to sample DB. So let's go to shrink files, and we were talking about this option where we have shrank the file to 6 MB size. There is also another operation where we want to empty this file by migrating to data in other files. So let's do one thing. Let's shrink this file, the task and the shrink files, and there was one file under this primary file group, test.dat, which contains the data, and we want to empty the file by migrating data to the other files in the same file group. So data will migrate to other files, so let's do that. Now that file has become empty. Now we should be able to remove it. Data is migrated to other files. Earlier the file was not empty, so it was not allowing us to delete this file. So let's delete this file now. I'm removing this and clicking OK. Now let's check the file size, which is now set to 6 MB here. So what we have just shown you is to migrate data from certain files to the other files. Basically we perform this operation, the last operation, if we don't want any particular file and we want data to be migrated to other files in the same file group. And basically it migrates the data from all the data from the specified file. The option allows the file to be dropped using the alter database statement. This option is equivalent to executing dbcc shrink file with the empty file option. So this is same. So we have selected the file type, file name, so we have used the third option, we have used the second option, we can use the first option as well. Let's click that. Let's see, the file size does not change with the first option, but yeah, it releases the unused space. So if you go back again to the shrink file section, it shows that on a 6 MB file currently we have like 1.56 MB space. Let's increase the file size once again to 10 MB. So we want the space to be increased to 10 MB. Okay, let's go to the shrink box file section. So currently this file has 5.56 MB of space, which is fine. So we talked about all the three options. So we are done here with the GUI mode of shrinking the file. And now let's do a demo using the Transact-SQL statement, how to shrink the file. Okay, so in order to let's use Transact-SQL to shrink a file. So here we will use the second option where we specify the file size to a certain point. So if we go to properties of the file, if we see the file size of this file is we will reduce the sample db_dat file, which is 10 MB. We will reduce it to 7 MB. So in order to do that, you need to use the dbcc shrink file operation, and you need to specify the logical name of the database, so which is sample db_dat is the file name. So let's specify that, and along with that you need to specify the target size. So I'm setting it to 7 MB from 10 MB, and you need to just execute the statement. So this is done, and if we take a look at the sample db, it's now reduced to 7 MB. So this is how you can reduce the size of the file to a particular point. So guys, we are done for this video. I hope you like this video. Please like, comment and share. Also please subscribe to my channel. In case you need the copy of the notes, I can send you a PDF file, but in order to do that, what you need to do, you need to take a screenshot from the bottom of my screen showing the subscription proof, showing subscribed, and along with the name of the video for which you want the PDF file. Send a screenshot to me on the email address vermavine@gmail.com. Once I receive your email, I will send you the PDF copy of the notes in case you haven't jot down the notes during our conversation. So I thank you so much for your time on this video, and you have a wonderful day ahead.